Hello, this is Andy Singleton. I'm here to talk to you about managing distributed teams using Assembla. This is an exciting topic for me because it's the entire reason we started the company. We ourselves use a distributed software team. As you can see from this map, we have about 45 people in 15 different countries. Some of them work in offices, some of them work at home, but we keep everyone fully engaged. We do this by studying how open source teams work and adapting some of their techniques to our commercial software development team. What we want to cover today is how to use Assembla in some common scenarios for distributed teams. First of all, how to set up and manage your cloud-based development environment. Second, how to coordinate team activities across multiple time zones. I often get questions about how people work when they're in multiple time zones. I often get questions about how people work together when they're in multiple time zones. Third, how to apply Agile techniques to globally distributed software teams. This is important because many Agile methodologies actually recommend that you not use distributed teams. And since about 80% of all software teams are distributed, it's important to understand how to do it. Finally, how to manage a global development organization, where we'll look at some of our portfolio features and we'll talk about how to follow what's going on in a slightly bigger project. Setting up a cloud-based development environment is not difficult. We believe that there are only 4 required components, which, if you provide them, will make your team productive. The first is a shared code repository, something like the Subversion or Git that we provide on Assembla. The second is a ticketing or issue management system, a place to post tasks where everyone can see them and discuss them. Third is a stand-up form. This is a way to find out what everyone's doing on a distributed team. Assembla has a unique implementation of this, very simple. And finally, a text-based chat. We also believe that a distributed team should have a technical lead. A technical lead is a developer, an engineer, who's not a project manager or scrum master, a technical person who actually read the code and work with the deliverables that are coming in. This is a person that will manage the tickets that are in the current iteration or sprint and answer questions about them, work with the developers, and actually assemble the release. You can look upon Assembla as a power tool for this technical lead. When we set up a project, we create a new project workspace on Assembla. And then we always do a few things. For instance, we write a wiki page that we call the Getting Started page, which is a guide for new developers to set up their development environment and start working. In this particular example, we have a process that's pretty mature and we've provided a lot of instructions. Your initial Getting Started page may be much simpler, but it's important to provide it. It's going to help your team to get started much more quickly. We also specify the page that they land on every time they come to look at this project. In this case, we've selected tickets. We can then go over to the Tickets tool and manage the view that they get when they land on tickets. This is the list view, which is a view that we typically use to present the upcoming iterations or milestones. But we can change that, and we could, for instance, ask our team members to go and land on the card wall. In that case, we'd be setting up a more traditional Scrum board sort of a view. We also think it's important to set up a build process for each one of our projects so that developers can always be seeing the latest version of the software. We've even put a build tool into Assembla, which will call out to the build servers or continuous integration servers. In this case, you can see that we are deploying successfully. Now I'm going to talk about how to coordinate people across multiple time zones. The first hint I have is to use something like the Assembla stand-up report. This is a simple form that people can fill out to say what they're working on, and they will tell you if they have any needs or obstacles, and the system will show that to you as a red mark. This is important for everyone on the team because they can see what the other team members are working on. It also reduces the amount of time that you spend in chat, and reducing meeting time is an important way to increase productivity. Finally, as a manager, it allows you to see what people are working on, and if they're working on tasks that you think are less important than your most pressing priorities, you can contact them and ask them to work on some of the important stuff. Here, for example, is the stand-up report for our Assembla.com development today. And you can see that nobody has reported any needs. And some of these reports are really quite simple, but they're always useful. We also ask people from multiple time zones to come to a text chat. And there's a few simple rules that will make this easy for them and will allow you to get the information you need without interrupting their work. The first rule is to always have it at a fixed time. If you move the time around, it will be hard for people to adapt and they'll miss the chat. The second rule is to every day do a 10-minute Scrum or stand-up meeting. This is a trick that comes out of the Scrum process, and if you keep it short, you're going to get a lot of information out of it, especially if you've already filled out the Scrum reports, and you don't need to put that into chat. And the benefit of this is going to be that you're going to be able to skip any kind of conference call, and people are going to have a lot more time to work. You can see that in the example that I've posted, I've done a few things to keep this chat short. The most important being that I've written my weekly report to the team as a message. And I've posted it as a message in the project workspace. I only have to drop a link in the chat, and people can go read it when they're ready. Now I'm going to talk about managing a globally distributed Agile process. A lot of Agile processes recommend that you do not use distributed teams, and in fact you only work with people who can meet and talk to each other. But I find that if you just follow a few simple hints and use some tools effectively, you can keep your Agile team moving just as fast as a co-located team. The first thing that we do is manage all your tasks in an online ticketing or issue management system so that people can see what's going on. The second thing to do is to organize those tickets into iterations, milestones, or sprints. This is a fundamental feature of the Agile process. You want to get your releases out on time, and what we see teams doing is taking features that are not ready and moving them to the next release. By getting the current release out on time, they're building credibility, reducing risk, and making it easier to get the next release out. The third thing that we recommend is sort of an abstract thing, which is everyone on the team needs to be working on the same thing. In software, we can think of that thing as a daily build, something that is running on a continuous integration server, something that everyone can see. And we've put in some tools to help you do that with Assembla. Finally, the team should be sharing an activity stream, which they view on the web or on their mobile or in email, but this is something that helps them see what everyone else is doing and really binds them together as a team. I'm going to cover some more details on each of these things. First recommendation was to manage all tasks on tickets. In our system, everything goes on tickets. Feature requests, bugs, tasks, comments, requirements. We attach documents that are relevant to the task to those tickets. And this is important because when you post something on a ticket, it's shared with the team. It gives your team a chance to interact with it and work together. And you're not sharing information one-on-one with phone, email, or chat, forwarding things around, and so on. And you're not placing yourself in the position where you're the hub for information and you have extra work. We organize those tickets into milestones, iterations, and sprints to run our Agile process. In fact, Assembla gives you several ways to look at an iteration, a milestone, or sprint. In the ticket list view, you'll typically see tickets organized by milestone. In the card wall view, you'll typically see tickets for the current milestone or the current release that you're working on. And the goal is to move everything from the left to the right and finish all of your tasks. The Agile Planner view gives you a way to plan both of these views. It gives you a story feature column where you can plan out what you're going to do, what the tasks and subtasks are, and it gives you a milestone column where you can plan out when you're going to do them. You can drag those tasks into the correct iteration. We believe that it's important to share a daily build. This is one version of the software that everyone can see and everyone can test. And if you get really good at this, you can go straight to continuous integration, which is where every time you make a change to the system, a build server runs. This is, for example, our breakout continuous integration server, and you can see that we have some failed tests. So we're reducing the failed tests today over time. This is very important information for the team. A continuous integration process requires good automated build scripts. Here you can see an example of some of the build scripts that we use. There's actually a lot more complexity behind this. This is quite an investment to make good build scripts and a good build process, but it's usually a good idea. After the build scripts run, they should post your software to a staging location or a download location. You can see here the new version of Assembla, which is different than the version we have up currently at www.assembla.com, and has this really nice, smooth, beautiful top bar. That's our staging server. Finally, if you want to tie your team together and make everybody work together on a minute-by-minute basis, use an activity stream. This is the same idea as the Facebook news feed or a Twitter feed. It unifies the team because people get messages from other team members and then they respond. They start conversations. As a manager, you can also drill down and see what's going on in bulk. You can get a list of everything the team did, all the commits and tickets that they worked on. So something like the Assembla activity stream is the modern social coding way to keep your team moving. Finally, I'm going to talk about managing a global organization. If you have several projects running, maybe a bigger team, multiple locations, you might want some of the tools that we put into our portfolio product. For instance, you might want to see what are the high priority tickets across all projects that people need to work on and that you might even need to pay attention to. So in this case, we have a consolidated view of all your tickets, and we filtered it down to just the breakout, which is our product development projects. And I can go and I can look at the highest priority tickets and see if any of them need my attention. A feature that I use every day is user reporting. I like to be able to see what people are doing across all projects. We have a users tab in the portfolio product, and I can find, for instance, myself or any other user, and I can see all of the stand-up reports. I can see I should be working on an org chart right now. I can see the time that I've recorded. In this case, I'm not recording my time. The tickets that have been assigned to me, and activities, notes that I've posted. I'm writing about the release process, code commits, and ticket edits that I've made. This will give you a very good view of what people are working on. The benefit of working in a distributed team is that you don't have to do a lot of things. And this will make everything faster, and you'll get your releases out faster. So I like to talk about 6 things you can skip with a distributed team. One is travel. We found that if you're working effectively with your distributed team, you may want to travel to meet people, but it's not going to help you get more work done. A second is designing in advance. This is one of those classic Agile observations that oftentimes when you build stuff in advance of needing it, you end up never needing it. And it can be a 100% gain not to do that work. A third thing that we like to avoid is adding project managers. Statistically, projects become slower as they get bigger. And one of the main contributors to this in the statistics is the number of project managers. So we've shown you ways that you can work directly with developers or work with technical leads and get good results. A fourth thing that we try to avoid is conference calls. I've found that when I go into a project that is making a lot of conference calls, the productivity is usually very low. So there's a correlation between making conference calls and having problems. There's also a correlation between making conference calls and having the people who sit on those conference calls get frustrated and want to go back to their work. So let's help them work. One thing at Assembla that we skip is interviews. Instead of interviewing, we will look at someone's resume and we will offer them a trial job. And we will point them to the Getting Started page that we showed you earlier, and we'll start work. This is a little bit of a radical difference from the way that most people do recruiting, but we actually believe that it gives great results and it saves a lot of time. Finally, we don't do a lot of estimating here at Assembla. Estimating is hard to do, so it's extra work. And if you've prioritized your tasks correctly, put them in priority order on any of those ticket lists, you're probably going to work through them in priority order, and you're not going to use your estimates when deciding what to do. I hope that this presentation helps you guys save time and do more work with less effort. Thanks.